It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen, brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and F Before Decaf. It's the podcast and YouTube series where we talk about common questions that people ask that collect tattoos, piercings, and other body modification. And it's answered by our panel of experts and tattoo artists, these three over here, and me, the piercing guy. So, here we go. We're experts. I declare that. This week,
professional. Professional what?
Professional what?
Yeah, that's a safe voice.
Yeah, you get paid for it. It ain't as much as it should
shoot.
be, so that kind
Never.
of makes you a professional.
Never as much.
Fair enough. Okay, so what'd you say earlier?
question today?
So what we're gonna do is this week. Oh Lord, God.
So let's talk about what happens after you
After
get
the
one.
tattoo.
What should you expect after getting a tattoo or piercing in the days following?
What do you think, Jimmy?
Lighter wallet, a little bit of soreness.
Sounds like our last trip
We
to
will take the
Vegas.
burden
Right?
out of your wallet.
I usually find, it's a little sore, but it's kind of like a sunburn. It's a mild abrasion. It's not that bad. As long as you take care of it, keep it good and moisturized, It's like we were talking before, I think, about, the buildup on it. You got the plasma is trying to heal your body. It's trying to put a coating over it, like a scab, so not foreign objects get into there. As long as you keep it moisturized, you don't have a big buildup of scab, I found. Like, you don't cookie as bad. Everybody gets the ditch or the hands, where it scabs horribly because you hit it on everything. But other than that, man, if you keep it good and washed and keep it moisturized, I find it heals fast, doesn't give you a lot of problems. Now, if you're like the rest of us and any other tattoo artist, you neglect the hell out of it after you get it.
Right.
I call that testing.
So about like the third or fourth day, you got this huge cookie scab, and you're like, oh, yeah, I got a new tattoo. This is awful. And you have to do the hot compress is the only thing that'll kind of help it.
You basically do everything wrong so that when somebody comes in, you know what they did wrong.
Well, I got to know if they're a
how
horrible
would I
client.
know otherwise?
example
unless
of
Hey, I
not
know
to do.
you fucked
Hey.
that up because I did the same thing.
Yeah, when they come in and they're like, oh, God, I ruined it. I'm like, no, don't worry. Look, this one did the same thing. It's going to turn out fine.
Right.
Just relax.
normal.
Your body's amazing.
And about the keeping it moisturized, a lot of times, especially people who don't have a lot of tattoos, they will tend to put too much ointment or lotion on their skin or on their tattoo. Why that's a bad thing is if that scab soaks up too much moisture, it will get waterlogged or moisture logged, and it will, when that dries out, it will fall off prematurely, and it will just kind of like the way I equate it is, when I was a kid and I'd scrape up my knees and get scabby knees or elbows or something, and then I'd go swimming, with a scab, and you
And it
get
gets all
out and it
yucky.
would just be like all gross,
Mushy.
and then later that day it was falling off, and then it was all purple and red, and it was mad. It's kind of the same thing, you want to keep that scab pliable but not wet.
Right.
All you're doing is making that scab kind of ride the waves of your movements, and if you happen to brush it, it's gonna more likely kind of move and bend more than just be all rigid and fragile and break off or crack off. Another thing is, if you keep it a little bit moisturized, it's going to be less itchy, it's going to be more comfortable, it's going to be less tight, and that means it's going to be easier for you to live with, so you're less likely to go, oh, just heal. I just I'm done with it.
Where's that coat hanger?
Yeah, and some
that
people
thing.
are worse at picking at their stuff than others, and it's real. Man, for some people, it's just mouth watering.
Oh, yeah. They can't
they just can't
resist.
help but to pick it. So it keeps it more comfortable, less likely to pick at it, and it lets the scab do its job without
And
well,
I
you don't
always
wanna smother it.
kind of explain it. It's the same thing you do when you're moisturizing your skin during dry weather.
Right.
If you don't do it, your hands start, like at the joints, start getting these cracks and redness where the skin splits. You're basically trying to make that skin more elastic.
Yeah.
Scab along
Right,
Exactly.
and
Right.
that scab, you're just giving it elasticity, exactly.
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't get brittle. You don't want a brittle scab, but and you don't want a wet scab. You just want a happy, and I don't even like the word moist. You're welcome, everyone.
So would things like the next morning waking up with like an imprint of the tattoo on your sheets and a little bit of bleeding?
Yeah, yep.
I think I've left a copy of all my tattoos in some hotel room across the country.
Right. Yeah, and
At
some
some
people
point.
forget about that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, like I said, or I was, I think, a previous podcast, but when the needle impacts the skin and goes down into that permanent layer and deposits that ink, it deposits ink in every layer from the outside in, and that ink that's trapped in that outside layer is going to slough off. So of course your scab, if you get it, you know, depending if it's very thin or thick,
basically,
it is going to be the color that the ink is.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've filled the phone call of, my ink's falling out. It was all over the towel. It was on the pillowcase. It was on. That
is by design. It has to be that way. There's no way for us to somehow from underneath or something put that pigment in that layer of skin without going through the top layer. It's just how it's done until they come up with some sort of weapon that somehow
put your crappy bed sheets on for the first 2 days after your tattoo.
You can teleport the ink from the machine in just right into that layer. No healing. Bam. There you go. Automated tattooing. I just invented it. It's through.
Well, I mean, as long as it's not your mom or your grandma's sheets, usually you're okay.
Yeah.
Are you still on sheets?
Yeah, we're still on sheets.
Bring up the bed, and then Jimmy's head just goes.
Yeah, basically, what I generally would suggest is put down a nasty bath towel that you don't care about. You know, the first night, and cover whatever that you don't want to get messed up.
Put on some older sheets or whatever, or realize, you're gonna get a mess. Or there is another option. I was taught this by a friend of mine years ago at a convention. He had tattooed his girlfriend, wife at the time. Big, beautiful piece. He spent all day at the convention doing it. He came into my room and asked if I had any Vaseline. Yeah, and I'm like, what do you need that for? He's like, I'm going to put on my girl's tattoo. I'm like, what? So basically what he taught me is you can put A&D, Vaseline, lotion, whatever, really, on the tattoo before you go to bed and then wrap it with plastic.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most insane thing I'd ever heard of. Yeah. So after that convention, I had tattooed my wife at the time, big color, I pushed it to the limit, you know, really packed it in there and all that. And we tried that. And about the third day, maybe fourth morning, and you only do it when you sleep. You wrap it right before, just saran wrap, tape it up so it doesn't go anywhere. Take it off right in the morning, wash your tattoo, pat it dry, and just lotion throughout the day like you normally would then that night. So about the fourth morning, it'll just flake like a sunburn.
I was hesitant to bring it up, but that's a technique I do use for some of my larger, highly saturated pieces.
And pieces that or at least me, that I know that I push that skin really as far as I can go, and let's do everything we can to make it as easy as we can for that skin to repair itself.
The only difference is I usually only say the first night, maybe the second night, because that ink should be pretty well locked in. That saran wrap does help lock it in while you're sleeping, so it's not on your sheets and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right, in the morning, it's a goopy mess. You put on the night before,
it looks like a melted tattoo.
Yep, it's gross.
It can be. If you put on the right amount, what I found,
I think it just gets kind of sweaty.
It'll soak in, and it'll be depending on how sweaty you are when you sleep. It'll almost be like baby butt smooth because just through the night it's just kind of soaked in all that moisturizer. And if you do it those 4 nights, it almost prevents any type of scab.
Wow.
And it's healing kind of without the scab. You're not giving it a chance because think about it. When you go to bed, even if you put on lotion right before you go to bed, you're rolling around basically on a towel, soaking up all the moisture off of it for like 6, 7, 8 hours.
Plus, you're not drinking, so your body's naturally dehydrated.
It's getting dry.
That's why you have cotton mouth first thing in the morning. Most people.
One tip I pitch in there when I'm talking to a client about this technique for healing sometimes is I'll tell them to put that lotion on about 10 minutes before they saran wrap it or wrap it up there. Put the lotion on, give it a couple of minutes to really moisturize and breathe some air and soak in there, and then wrap it up.
And why it's not such a big deal to really kind of use Vaseline or A&D or whatever is because your tattoo isn't going to breathe anyway. And a lot of the problem is with petroleum products such as Vaseline or A&D for healing. Like I said before, people tend to use too much of whatever product, and if you use just a little too much petroleum product, it creates basically a airproof barrier. And if you've ever, again, been like a child and got a cut and wore the Band-Aid for 3 days and then took off the Band-Aid and it's gone nowhere. It's still just an open cut going, about time you gave me some air. And so that'll do that to your tattoo. It'll prolonged, then there's more chance for infection.
Well, then it's trying to cut off that dead skin.
David, can I get
and
that
it's,
from you?
It's making a bigger spot because it hasn't had any healing or air.
Yeah,
It makes a
it
mess.
just makes it very angry. So
Plus, on top of that, because you're putting that covering over it, you don't have to worry about the added problem with petroleum, which is that it collects dust, debris.
Exactly.
Yeah, it holds dirt.
Yeah, you don't have
against
to worry
it.
about it. Yeah. And it's a great technique, and it's a little bit more legwork, and I don't suggest it to everyone.
Right.
But people that really are into their tattoo, I guess, or I can tell
People
really,
that really take care of stuff.
that will take the time and can get it. I guess.
Okay.
I'll suggest that.
And I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it's better for color tattoos too, like black and gray. You don't have
Black
to take
and
that
gray
much.
is not such a big
You
deal.
don't have to take as much care of it because it's not as much trauma to the
Not
skin.
nearly as much trauma. Yeah. So.
I have two questions, and the first one being is I remember just healing out tattoos. Sherry would always be very specific that she wanted to wait a certain period of time after taking a shower before putting lotion on. So how dry should that tattoo area be before they apply the lotion? And the other question is, because we get asked about it on the channel occasionally, is that wrap stuff that's really popular right now. What is it called?
Oh, that Sanoderm.
I just had a friend, an old friend from high school that we've kind of started talking again on the Facebook, and he asked me specifically about that stuff. I've never used it, but I've never really had the need to use it.
You didn't use it when we were in Deadwood at all?
Nope.
Really?
Never used it once. But if you are an artist that has some troubles with healing, maybe overworking, long heal times, things like that, it could really help you, I think. Because it's kind of that saran wrap idea. You're not you're putting an artificial scab on it. You're not allowing your body to do it. Your body's healing and regenerating your flesh under there and not having to build a scab. So it's kind of it's taking the resources, or it's
taking the responsibility.
It's taking a little bit of the responsibility off your body.
Yeah.
And so I can see that. Plus, it's a barrier. It's gonna cover it up. I've heard some people really not like it. It's uncomfortable. Can be. Some people complain that it hurts when you take it off.
Oh, I'm sure it does. It dries out if you're not
Personally,
re-moisturizing that
Well, it
area.
seals and makes a pocket. So I mean, like it's stuck to you.
Right.
I didn't learn about it until when you remember Tommy out at Sturgis with us. He was working with Kingpin and he brought it out when it first came out. And the idea of it with like a motorcycle event or a music event or something like that, where people are camping, they're getting in the rain, they're getting in swimming pools, they're getting in ponds.
I got my first tattoo at an outdoor
they're
concert.
sunburned, they're not taking care of their skin, they're not taking
like
care of
that.
their. There's nowhere to clean it properly.
That makes
a
sense.
great idea because it's sealed it off. You're not, you're really cutting down the chances of them having a big problem with it later on.
You're taking a lot of the responsibility off the client. All they have to do is live.
Absolutely,
and then
they
come
can
back
go
in a
ride
week
their
or two and have you
motorcycle or
peel it
whatever.
off of
Yep.
them. So yeah, so there are definite advantages of it. For me,
I wouldn't use it at the shop.
I think it's somewhat expensive.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think probably some of your clients, a percentage of them are going to end up tearing it off anyway because they're annoyed with it or something like that. And I just don't see the need for it. But like I said, if you have a trouble with, or maybe someone is diabetic or they have a tough time healing, and maybe that would help them in that particular.
There's some applications
aspect.
it's definitely good for.
Yeah, but I've never used it, so maybe it'd be one of those things where I use it and go, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing ever. But really, I get really good heals almost all the time. Every now and then, there's a little scab in an area or something. But really, I don't really have trouble with long scabs or really overworking that much.
So you do think it would be helpful if they had diabetes or immune deficiency disorder?
I think it's a great idea. I never even thought of that.
Taking some of the lifting off of your body, not having to create that scab and all that, and it can just get right to healing you up. So maybe, I mean, I'm far from a doctor,
right?
But the common sense of it kind of makes sense.
That's a great idea.
How long should you wait before applying moisturizer?
I guess it kind of depends on the scab and how your tattoo's healing. If it's healing very, very thin and there's hardly much a scab on it or anything, really, as soon as you towel off and whatever and you're ready to stand in front of the mirror and start your routine, you could probably lotion it up. If you've got a heavier scab and you're in the shower for a little bit and it kind of, it's soaked up a little moisture,
let it dry out.
I would let it air out a little bit, let it get rid of some of that water moisture, because it's not going to stay in there that long, but it will end up drying it out because it's going to take more moisture with it than it would have if that water wasn't already. Am I making sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So I would let that water, I'd let it dry out a little bit after that, and then add your lotion to it.
Part of my aftercare routine is say wash your tattoo, then give it 4, 5, 6 minutes or so, let it dry out a little bit, and then throw some lotion on.
That's what I say too.
So,
whenever I wash my tattoo, I like to give it a few minutes just to kind of get that water moisture out of it.
Wash it, pat it dry, and then when you start getting dressed and all that stuff, then when you're doing your routine.
And you don't need you don't really need to lotion it any more than you would the rest of your body. Just a little dab will do it just fine.
Depends on the your skin type and the weather. Because if you live, depending on where you live in Iowa, like in Iowa, it changes so much. Your skin will itch, and it feels like you just can't get enough moisture in your skin. And at other times, you have no problem, and you feel like a grease ball all the time. So it really depends on that. Some people have really dry skin, and the area it is might be a more dry skin than another area. So they might be putting it on 5 times a day, where another guy might 2 times. They put it in the morning, it's good throughout the day, and then maybe once in the evening.
If you have it where clothes rub on it or anything like that.
It's probably better to do several small lotions a day rather than one big one too. So don't just over lotion it first thing in the morning and call it a day. Do a little bit here and there, and if a little bit's all you got, it's better than nothing. So
and it's a good idea to use a paper towel as opposed to like the bath towel or even a hand towel.
Use a clean clean towel. Don't wash your tattoo like at the kitchen sink and use the towel that your roommate used the night before to wash the dishes or something. Don't do
use
that.
the doggy towel or nothing like that.
And another just common sense thing that maybe people don't think about, because putting on lotion is a pretty common thing, but you typically don't necessarily have to wash your hands before you put on lotion, unless you got a tattoo. Wash your hands before you put your lotion on.
Every single
you're
time.
walking around, grabbing, touching, picking your nose, and then you're rubbing everything you've touched right into this open wound. Don't do that. Just wash your hands.
And another thing to consider is it's a good idea to go out and buy a new one, especially if it's if you live with other people. It has been in the house for a while.
Don't share the same bottle of lotion. Don't
between 2 tattoo people. Unless you just basically are sharing everything DNA-wise. Anyway, there's a chance that someone could double dip, or they're putting it on and they touch their tattoo. It's going to be contaminated. So it's something to think about, really.
And here's a question I get a lot from piercing: is exercise.
I get that.
Sweat and etc. How does that affect?
Most of the time, not hardly at all.
Doesn't affect it at all. It burns maybe a little bit if you get it sweaty, I guess, after. I've never had the urge to get tattooed for 5 or 6 hours and then go lift weights or nothing.
The only thing I think that is an issue is if repetitive motions with clothing rubbing.
That's
on
exactly
that area.
Say a joint or the clothing itself.
So say you got like some shorts on and you're doing some legs where you're pushing, and those shorts are just
rubbing,
rubbing. And a rub a few times a day is no big deal. But when you're sitting there, it's like water eroding a rock. It's just every push does 0.5% of damage. So a couple of them ain't a big deal.
But 100 of them.
But if you've done 3 reps at 50 each,
it's going to happen. I had a lady that worked at UPS. She had a black and gray piece in her upper arm. She came back down the road, and it was half gone.
Oh, that lovely polyester.
And I'm like, what? And I'm mind blown, like, what could have happened? So I'm sitting there, I'm repairing the tattoo and talking to her, and she goes, yeah, I work at UPS. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do? She's like, I stack boxes and stuff all day. I'm like, so like reaching above your head and reaching. She's like, yeah. And like, did you see what my sleeve just did when I reached up? Popped up my arm, and then reached down, it slides back down. Rises up, rises down, rises up, rises down, rises up. So she did that while her tattoo's healing, and how is these flakes and these scabs that are kind of popping up, and throughout the day, she just lightly watered, like wet sanded her tattoo right off.
Which in that case, covering the tattoo saran or something else is a good option.
Exactly, you're going to keep that abrasion down, So, sometimes the better of 2 evils is what you got to do. Some people got to go to work, they got to wear boots, they got to wear something. What do I do? Well, wrap saran wrap around it, cut off the bottom of a sock, use that as a, to hold it on or something.
We've talked about lifestyle choices meets tattoos in previous episodes.
Yeah, so look that up, and that'll kind of feed into this too. But
and the other thing you want to consider with exercising, and I this is the same with piercing, and we'll get to piercing here in a second. Exercise is fine. Anything that comes out of your own body except fecal matter is safe to you. Not other people's, but yours is fine. So sweat doesn't affect it. But if you're wearing the same gym clothes every single time that you go out and work out, then
bacteria on it.
While that's sitting in your gym bag, it's all those little creatures are growing. And you put that on a fresh tattoo or a piercing, and hey, you're gonna get a lovely enjoyment of infection.
Well, also remember, if you get a shoulder tattoo, let's say, and you wear a tank top and you go to the gym to work out, you lay down to bench press.
Yes.
Well, you need to think about other people too, because when I come into bench press, not only I didn't wipe down the bench.
Nobody wipes down their equipment. You
No.
know?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of people sweat on it, and then when I come in and lay down on it, I'm going to lay down in your body excrement, your blood or your plasma. I mean, it's gross.
Risk it.
And
Yeah.
you're you're risking other people and yourself.
It's an abrasion, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like it's down to the bone, but
No.
still, if your
an
skin
open
is open
wound.
in any manner, then you're susceptible to infection.
And I
far
always go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I always suggest, especially with piercings, because it's been coming up quite a bit. A lot of women wanting their nipples pierced that work in, they do martial arts. I don't know why that came up. It seemed like I had like 15 comments in a week. You really have to consider what your body is touching on that equipment. You need to talk to the people that run your gym and ask them how often they disinfect stuff. And if you feel like they're not doing a good job, ask them if it's okay if you buy a disinfectant and clean everything that you come in contact.
And usually in a lot of gyms, that's
they
kind
have
of
a bottle on
standard
every machine.
practice. If you when you're done with the machine, you're supposed to wipe it down. That's why I said, but nobody
ever does
wipes it down. But yeah, so just be very careful. Yeah, how hard would it be to throw one of those wipey canistery things? You pull it out, give it a quick
Sand
wipe.
wraps.
And I
Throw it
imagine
away,
a lot of people probably already carry that in their gym bags, but maybe not thinking tattoo or piercing.
Right.
So
And you have to be extra cautious when you have an open wound on your body. I would say the same thing if you had an abrasion from a bike accident or anything else. You should be cautious of these things and aware of it.
Always a bike accident.
because it's really forward on our minds because you do it.
You do it quite often.
Well, if you wouldn't wheelie and endo and try that Dave Mears stuff on that thing.
No, he's listening to Dave Matthews doing 60 mile an hour on an electric bike.
Well, I mean, he tries bicycle dancing.
That sounds like
coming,
a Dave Matthews concert right
It's
there.
an up and coming sport, I heard.
The electric bike tour.
bike.
Everybody
Biking
shadow
across
dance
America,
now.
guys.
Bring your hula hoop.
So a tattoo
Don't
should
forget to plug
heal
in.
about a week and a half, 2 weeks is what I usually tell people. Some people will say, "Oh my God, it healed in 3 days, didn't even scab. You're amazing," or
Right.
whatever, But typically, it's
yeah.
about 10
Unless
days
it's a
or so.
difficult area, like a ditch or a knee or
if you've
something
got,
crazy.
say you've had diabetes for 25 years
Yeah.
and you got something way down on your foot,
It's going to be a while to heal.
The further away you are from the heart,
Yeah.
the longer it's going to take to heal.
Yeah.
With piercings, normal reactions are it's gonna pump. It's gonna kind of look like it's infected immediately after. Piercings, in fact, are react a lot differently. They're more traumatic.
It's deep
So yes, you're gonna see redness, discolorization, heat, tenderness to the touch, inflammation, or swelling. Off and on. Some people a couple days, some people a couple weeks. If it's an oral piercing, you might see swelling even longer. Bleeding is not uncommon from anywhere from 1 to 5 days, especially in blood-rich areas like the genitalia, where it's going to bleed for sometimes up to 5 days or longer. I generally suggest it's not a bad idea to get an old t-shirt that you don't care about if you've got something on your face. Make sure it's clean and put it over your pillow. Sleep with that in there for the first couple nights just to make sure that you don't stain the pillow in the pillowcase. And also it gives you an easy way of keeping that pillow clean that comes in contact with the piercing on a regular basis. So you don't have to worry about infection as much. And you can use it for like about 4 nights. If you have a piercing that's outside of your head or below it, so to speak, wearing a pair of sweatpants or a t-shirt that you don't care about to bed is usually a good idea. As far as aftercare, I'm leaning more and more towards just using flat-out sterile saline solution opposed to anything else. It seems to be the way that the industry's going. But if you think you contaminated the area, you need to clean it with a good antimicrobial or germicidal soap. As far as basically piercings is a longer heal. You're more prone to causing infection just basically because of that. So practice lots of common sense is your best option. Those things your mom taught you that you thought were annoying as a child, like washing your hands and cleaning your bedroom and changing your linen and all those things and using a new towel that when you started adulting, you decided wasn't that big of a deal to use a towel nonstop for 4 or 5 weeks in a row until it got to the point where you could smell it while sitting on the john. Yeah, you need to stop doing those
She was
things.
preparing you to get pierced or tattooed.
Yes, that's what it is.
She loves you.
Yes, she loves you and she wants to keep you around. And as artists, we want to keep you around because if you're not walking around out there with our art dies.
That and we can't do our art unless there are other people.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it on each
stay
other. But we
around.
run out of spots.
Fast.
Stay around.
really
Don't
fast.
die.
So stick
Let us
around.
tattoo
We want you to stick around. And whenever you feel like you have a problem, the best thing to do if you think you have an infection in a piercing, a tattoo, if something doesn't seem right to you, if it doesn't seem normal to you, is not to get on the internet and do a Google search and then get about 15 answers and decide that the one that's easiest for you to take care of and that seems the simplest and the easiest route is the one that you should decide to take. What you should do is get in contact with your artist, your piercer or your tattoo artist. And if they don't give you an answer or it doesn't seem like it's getting better,
or if you're really worried,
go
about
see your doctor.
Yep.
It's that simple.
An infection usually doesn't have it's not possible for it to show up in like 72 hours or something afterwards. Yeah. It's a long,
it's got a gestate.
Period. Like you can't wake up tomorrow and be like, I got tattooed yesterday, now I'm infected. Like it's not possible.
No. That's one thing. That's one thing to remember.
Usually the red and swollen stuff is just a trauma. It's not infection.
It'll be a little warm, for a day or so,
That's
and
normal.
there'll be a little redness. But if it's radiating, if it's if it's profusely leaking something that glows in the
you're
dark,
in trouble.
that's bad. That's bad.
And we usually say listen to your body. And what we're talking about with that is your body does put out signs like, it hurts to touch it. Well, don't touch it. That's why your body's telling you.
Yep.
It's saying, hey, you hurt me here.
Don't mess with
Please don't mess with me. Let me be this isolated area that you keep away from everything so that I can get to work at healing, which I'm guessing you want to stay alive and you want to happen. Listen to your body. It's going to tell you and usually guide you along the right lines as far as healing. It feels good to do a hot soak or compress on a piercing.
Yep.
There's a reason for that. It feels good to put lotion on a tattoo and clean it.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. Let your body give it that little extra helping hand and it'll heal and treat you well.
Absolutely. Good advice, DaVo.
Yes.
I like when they come in and they're like, hey, what's wrong with this piercing in my face? Well, don't touch it before you wash your hands. Oh, I never do. What do you think? Like,
What I love
your
is
hands
as
are all
soon
over,
as they
dude.
get done doing it, they go over to
it.
the mirror and they
touch
take a
it.
look and they go, yeah, this is okay. And they start moving it around and then it's, oh my God, it's bleeding again. Well, you just adjusted it, moved it, and now it's bleeding.
You're digging
Stop
around
touching
open
it.
wound, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lesson number 1.
Right.
Leave it alone.
Put that down.
Come back next week. We'll give you lesson number 2.
Anyway, I think we did a good one on
Yeah.
that one.
Wraps up pretty well.
I think they doing well.
So you've been listening to or watching Q&A in the Kitchen. It is a podcast and YouTube series where we cover such subjects. If you'd like to see more of them in the future or listen to more of them in the future, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you get notified every single time we post a video, which we do about 4 to 5 times a week. Once again, this is brought to you by Skin Kitchen Tattoo, the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and Death Before Decaf, which we're drinking right now. Fall as...
The fall is...
Merchandise
Heck.
mugs.
Yes.
Fall
Make
is
great
heck.
stuffing stuffers.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got
can
a
put,
few
like,
of
a
these
gift
coffee
card in
cups
it.
left. They're pretty awesome.
Plus, if you
Gift
go to our
cards
merch
fit in
store,
them.
we also have the travel mugs on there with the very
Yeah.
logo that you see
Insulated.
here and all kinds of fun stuff. So check that out. If you have any questions that you'd like to hear us discuss at length and bramble on about in the future, always make a comment. If you feel like we brought up something and you're like, I don't know what that means.
Challenge us.
Challenge us.
Yes.
We're happy to expand on that. And if worse comes to worse, go to one of our websites, either skinkitchen.com or the Axiom or axiom.piercing.com, and send us an email. Till then,
Have a great day, guys.
What was that music place that helped us out?
Oh yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Reeman's. Recently, I went in there for a piece of gear, and they really treated me well. So I just wanted to give them a quick shout out. Reeman's Music. It's up here on Douglas. It's just west of us, I guess. Up
right down
there,
the street.
kind of past the Merle Hay, man. They give lessons, all kinds of stuff. They got about every instrument you'd want in there. So
and
check them out.
they're locally owned and operated.
Absolutely, and they've been
Nice.
around for a long, long time. And there's some really good people
I got
working
my
there.
trumpet from there when I was a kid.
I've bought in several instruments, and they've worked on a lot of my stuff, and they've always treated me really good. Really, really nice people. So yeah, just want to give them a shout out.
So check them out.
Yep. Check
Till
us
next
out.
time, have a good day. Hope all your piercings and tattoos heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area or nearby, we hope to see you for your piercing needs and tattooing needs in the future.
And remember, don't pick at it.
Have a good day, guys.
Have a good one, guys.